Hi, Vesta. I gotta find myself here. I keep refreshing it. Okay, I found it. Yay. Hey, me. How are you? It just started pouring here. It's supposed to rain off and on all day today. I'm glad we got out birding yesterday. It was nice and sunny. I mean, some clouds, but we had flyover American white pelicans. We had palm warbler, warbling vireo. We had, oh, what else did we have? Scarlet tanager. And, oh, we had 27 species and now they're escaping me, but we traveled into different places. We had black neck stilts, Bonaparte gulls, of course our bald eagles, and it was just a really good day. We found blanding turtles, which are these words are escaping me. I don't know if endangered is the right word, but I know that we need to protect them because we have very few blanding turtles in our area. So we got to see blanding turtles, and it was just a really good day to get out. It was nice and sunny. It did a lot for Patty and I's mood to get out in nature and run into our birding friends as we were out there. So it was a really good day. So thank you for being here, those who are joining. We got Vesta and Lori and Sandra, Stephanie, Peg. Thank you so much for spending your Thursday morning with me. Really fun quilt block to show you today. It's my take on how when I see the pattern, this is what I saw when piecing it. Other people have shared their patterns and how they put this together. It's a very popular quilt pattern for quilters. I'm going to try and not give it away, but it is very popular. I know that this is one you're going to have a lot of people that you can send it to. So I'm going to give you my spin on it, and we're going to flip the camera around and get started. While I'm doing that, please say good morning to each other in the chat box. And I do have a couple of dates that I want to give you that I'm going to need to change my time for because of the birding festival. The biggest week in American birding, our local festival starts on May 9th. So I've got some dates where I'm going to change my times because I have signed up for field trips. I have signed up for volunteering. So say good morning to each other and we'll get started. Where's my widget? Oh, there it is. Oh, you might be able to hear the rain hitting, coming down on the roof right now. We need this rain. My husband has put down fertilizer for the grass and grass seed because our Seti, our pup, who turns 1 year old today, she loves to run the backyard. So we're finding that she's putting a little wear on the grass. And I don't know about anybody else's husbands, but my husband is very particular about his grass and his yard work. So he's loving this rain because his grass seed that he just put down is going to get a boost. So with that being said, I will zoom in on this as we start creating. Hi, Marilyn and Kathy. Kathy with a C, Kathy with a K. Hi, Lynn. Our Lindas. Hi, Sandy. Susanna. Dorothy and Jill. Ornetta. Hi. Hi, Tina. Jasmine. Oh my goodness, so many on. This is wonderful. I'll have to go back through the comments and say good morning to everybody. And hi, Sherry. Okay, So let's get these dates out of the way first. So May 8th and May 15th, I'm going to move my live to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time instead of 11:30 in the morning. Okay, so for right now, it's just these two dates that I'm going to change the time. I will just kind of go along, see how migration is doing. If it's, you know, I want to get out before the end of May again. I may push the other Thursdays to the evening, but you never know. It could, for right now, I'm going to keep them at 11:30, the dates that follow after the 15th. But, you know, migration, this big event in the spring only happens once a year, and I want to make sure that I'm out there for most of it. So I will post those time changes also on the Chirpy page. So yesterday you got a post of what to prep for today's project. You can go back and refer to that. What I'm featuring is the 6x6 Designer Series paper packs from Stampin' Up. And I get these every year. Now, there are there's 4 different designs, but they're in the neutrals, the subtles, regals, brights, and in colors. The reason why I love to have these on hand is if you're making a card, and let's say you've got a Designer Series paper pack, and you know there's always more colors than what just Stampin' Up will suggest on the back for some. And maybe you don't like the print of the color that is in that paper pack. I come back to these a lot and find the colors that I need in the patterns that I want. So they're really good fill-in packs of Designer Series paper. And because these are this year's and we're starting a new catalog next week, these have moved over to the last chance category on the website. The neutrals are on sale from $12.50 down to $8.75 for the neutrals. And what's the other one that's $8.75? Oh, and the regals. So they're $8.75, and the brights and the subtles are on sale for $10 a pack. So, again, I love to have these colors on hand as fill-ins and another choice for me when I'm making my cards. So I get them every single year. And I don't get rid of them even though they're retired, because you just might need that one pattern that really makes everything happen. You know, it's like fabric. There's just certain fabrics you're not going to get rid of. You're just going to wait and see if you're going to need them or not. Kathy, yeah, I'm going to zoom in now, and we'll go over each of these pieces that you need for today, okay? So let me zoom in, and that might be, that's going to be too much, but we'll go over them individually, okay? Alrighty, let's get some of this stuff on top out of the way. So since we were just talking about the Designer Series paper, I have 10 assorted squares of the neutrals, and they're 1 1/4 inches square. Okay, I've got 10 of those. And let's just stick with Designer Series paper. Now this piece of Designer Series paper is going to be a layer, and it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Okay, and that is from that same paper pack. I'm going to be using these little circle patterns here. And then the other piece of Designer Series paper is a coordinating color, and I just pulled out Night of Navy here, and it's 1 1/4 inch by 4 inches. So that's the Designer Series paper. You can see we don't use a whole lot in our quilt blocks. That's why we never seem to get rid of our paper. And it's because I like to put Designer Series paper on the back of my cards just so I can like use it up. Let's look at, I'm going to get all the little stuff off of here first. I've got a 1 1/2 inch square, and my sentiment fits in that square. This is the Stylish Shapes stitched square here. And it's got my sentiment, and I've got dimensionals on the back. And let's look at all of these little squares. Okay, they're all kind of stuck together. My Post-it note was holding them down. But I've got 10 5/8 of an inch square, and I've got 4 that are 3/8 inch square. Don't worry, you're not going to have to cut that little one, okay? In case you're already like, oh, does this mean she's going to make us cut that little square? Nope, you're not going to get to cut the little square, okay? But you got 4 of the 3/8 inch and 10 of the 5/8 inch. Okay, so I'm going to move these out of the way. We'll just put them over here in a pile. And let's talk about our card base. So my card base is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2. It's going to be a portrait style card, but you could turn it and make it landscape once you see the design, okay? So 5 1/2 by 8 1/2. It's scored at 4 1/4. And we'll just go ahead and burnish that score line, and we'll just leave this on there for now. And then I've got a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of basic white. That's going to be the insert for the inside of the card. Okay, and our quilt block is going to be built on a 3 3/4 inch square. I'm using basic white. This is going to be covered up, so it doesn't necessarily have to be white, but that's what I'm using. And then the quilt block is going to be framed with a 3 7/8 inch square layer of a coordinating color, and I just stuck with Night of Navy. Okay. So those are our pieces. Now, I'm going to bring in our 3 3/4 inch square of basic white. That's what we're going to build our quilt block on. We have to put a grid on here. Okay? So you can do this either with your scoring tool, or you can do it with pencil and a ruler. But what we're going to do is we are going to draw or score a line 1 1/4 inch on all 4 sides. So I'm going to put it up here in my trimmer at 1 1/4. I'm going to bring in my OmniGrid ruler, which I know is 1 inch wide. So I'm going to put that on the 1 inch line here, and should be flush and lining up with my track here. I'm doing this away from me. I normally do it down here. This is just to get me in the ballpark, okay? So 1 1/4, and that looks like I'm a little shy, but that's okay because my Designer Series paper squares will take up the space. Let's put this back on 1 inch. Make sure my ruler is right along that line. Again, this is just a guide. So our grid is a 9 patch. And a 9 patch will have 9 squares that are equal in size. So 1 1/4 inches, which is what you cut your designer series paper squares to be. I really am not happy working away from my body like this, because I am like, oh, thank goodness the designer series paper squares are, I know, are square, because I'll just make sure that I use them as my guide. Okay, so we put our grid on that piece of basic white. Now, while I've got the trimmer out, what we're gonna do is I'm going to bring in this 1 1/4 by 4 inch piece of designer series paper, and I'm going to cut it in half at 2. Okay, so that was the 1 1/4 by 4 inch strip. I cut it in half at 2 inches, and I can set those aside now until later. So I think I can put the trimmer away. And I'm going to look really quick. Marilyn uses the gap. I do too, Marilyn, but I have found, depending on, I don't know, sometimes I'm off. I don't know if it's because my pencil is really skinny and it gets in there too far and there's nothing like to be a bumper on either side to keep me straight. But sometimes my lines don't end up very straight. So I've gone to using a ruler just to help, you know, help me out. So, yeah, so let's keep going. And you're welcome, Claudia. It's just really good to have those filler colors on hand so that you have more choices. Okay, so let's move that Post-it note. Let's bring in our 9 patch, and let's bring back in all of those 1 1/4 inch squares, which I just want to make sure that I brought them all over. You're actually going to have more than what you need, but again, it's all about choices. Okay, and this block looks good no matter what colors you have chosen. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with my Tombow glue holder here. You know what? We better bring in the silicone mat. And I am going to just start putting these squares down in a pattern that's pleasing, but I don't have to overthink it. Okay? We're not going to put any designer series paper in the center. If you do, that's okay, but nothing's really going to happen with that square. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to put some glue down directly onto my grid here. And I'm going to put my 2 outer corners in first. And let's just, what do I want to start with? Don't overthink it, Julie. And make sure it gets right into the corner and is flush along the outsides. See how my line could have been a little off? That's okay. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put one in this corner. The reason why I'm doing that is if I keep going one at a time, I might really find that I'm off. If I'm a little big or whatever in the center, I can even it out on both sides. So let's put in this stripe right in the center. And it might overlap a little bit. That's okay. When we go to quilting our block and those rollers get a hold of all these ridges, it's going to smooth it right out, okay? And so I'm just going to come right down here. Again, I'm going to put one in the, let's see, let's put maybe this one in the corner. I'm just looking at my patterns, trying not to get two of the same pattern or color next to each other, but it is not a big deal. Okay, and let's just put this one in here. Sometimes they snap right in there, and it's to me just a very satisfying sound. If they snap in, then I did good on my cutting. And then let's just go over here to these two blocks. And let's see, I think I'll put this one here. I'm also, oh shoot, I should have done my corner first. Sorry, you guys. Teacher's not paying attention to her instructions. And I don't know, let's put, I want to save two of these for the inside, my little swatches for the inside. So I'm trying to look at, but I can see that I don't want to have too many browns together. So let's save that one. We need a stripe. We need another stripe. And I'm going to have these stripes going the opposite way, just to be different. I wasn't too far off there. And then that leaves just this square here, and I think I'll put this, I don't know if this is gray granite or smoky slate, but we're just going to use this color here. Ooh, that didn't snap, but it went really in there, really. Oh, I got two patterns together. Well, that was going to happen, but it's okay. Don't overthink this like me. So there's the beginnings of our quilt block. While I have these two extra squares, I'm going to bring back in that card insert. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay these down like some swatches that are laying on the inside of the card. You could put these on point and kind of like cut them off, but I'm just going to throw a couple swatches on here. Just to give it that little fabric feel to the inside of the card. Okay, and now I'll set this back aside. Hi, Patty from New York. Carol from Connecticut. Oh, we got West Virginia. Hi, Ellen. North Carolina. Yay. Welcome, everybody. Okay, so bring back in that 9 patch. How's everybody doing so far? What we're going to do to start building our quilt pattern is we're going to start using the 5/8 inch squares here. Oh, there's my 4 little ones. And again, don't worry, you don't have to cut those. We're going to cut a couple of these other ones, but they're bigger. They might be easier for you to handle, okay? So looking at our 9 patch, I am going to be working in the upper left corner of the first 2 blocks. And when I'm done with what I'm doing here, I am going to turn my card or my quilt base a quarter of a turn, and I'm always going to be working with the center and the one to the left in the upper left-hand corner. So my hands are going to the same place every single time, okay? And it kind of I don't have to keep guessing where these squares go. Okay, I think I'm going to switch from the Tombow. I'm going to bring in my fine tip glue applicator here, okay? So I'm going to take one of these squares, put some glue on the back, and this square is going to go in the bottom right corner of the very first square. I'm going to use the lines, the intersection, the lines of my Designer Series paper to help me get that right in the corner there. Okay, so the first one goes in the lower right. When we work with our center block, it's going to go in the upper left. Okay. And I want to make sure that I'm going all the way to the outside of my square. That square got a little, it's hanging out a little bit. I'm going to just try to, oh, it's really not enough that it's going to matter. I'll just push my square out there. And let's square up this other one. Okay, so now when I turn my block counterclockwise, a quarter of a turn, I'm going to do the same thing. Lower right, upper left. And you can get ahead of me if you want. Just do that until you've done it 4 times. I'm not going to push that down too hard yet, just in case I need to shift it around a little bit. Or lower left, upper. What did I say to begin with? This would be on my left. This one would be my right. So lower left, upper right. Okay. Turn it. That up here. Scoot you all to the outside there. Turn it one more time and we'll be done. I guess it's all in how you're looking at your blocks, what is right and what is left, huh? I'm sitting here overthinking what I told you, and I'm like, well, I guess it depends on how you look at it. But this is the pattern that you want to see. Okay, that's the pattern that we want to see so far. Now, the next step is we're going to use those 4 little 3/8 inch squares, and we're going to make bow ties out of these 2 white squares. So my little square here is going to go on point, and I'm going to line up the points with my vertical and horizontal lines. I'm just showing you like right here. You just have to get it to where it creates this little bow tie. Kind of like that. Okay, that's what you're looking for. And I've found that if I put just a little tiny dot of glue right in the corner of the basic white. Oh, come on. I don't go outside of where I need to be. And I also found I can put a little bit here in these corners, but I don't know exactly just how much that's keeping that little square down. I'm going to bring in my Take Your Pick tool, and with the putty end, I'm going to pick up that block, that square. That just makes it a little easier to handle. And I can just set it in there. Okay, and we've got a little bow tie. And I'm going to turn it counterclockwise, and I'm going to do the same thing. Make our little bow ties. Just press it down. Counterclockwise a turn. Make another bow tie. It's a little square, so you don't want to get too happy with your liquid glue, because you don't want it going all over the place, but yet you want good adhesion also. And I'm just using that Take Your Pick tool just to kind of set it down in place here. Let that glue grab. And then one more, and we'll have 4 bow ties done. Now the mystery is not the bow ties. The bow ties are just helping us get to where we gotta go so that we can get to the mystery. Okay? So there we have 4 little bow ties. Are you hanging with me so far? Hi, Marianne. Hi, Janice. Okay, so let's keep going. We got our 4 bow ties. Now, we've got 2 white squares left, right? Okay. Well, I'm going to cut these in half, corner to corner, diagonally. And then I'm going to cut them in half again. And I am just eyeballing it. And I need 8 of these. You could use the Post-it note trick for this. In fact, the PDF will have the pictures on how to use your Post-it note to hold these squares so that you can do your cutting. For me, this is a big enough square that I feel pretty comfortable handling it. So corner to corner. And then eyeballing it half. And these do not have, they do not have to be perfect. You don't just get, loose with what your expectation is and what you're trying to achieve, but don't get real picky either, okay? So there's 8 triangles. Now, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, because where we're going to place these, I want you to see it a little better. So let me just remind me to not stay this close for the rest of the card. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to come down here to this lower right-hand square, okay? And each time I turn, each time I turn it, I'm always going to be working in this square right here, okay? And I'm going to take my triangle. Now, you can put some adhesive on the back of it if you want, but I kind of know where this is going. I'm going to come right across, not all the way to the ends, but up here where the 2 Designer Series paper squares meet, I'm just going to put a line of glue right about there, almost to the top, not quite, because I don't want it like gushing out. I'm going to pick up my triangle with my putty. Now this straight edge here is going to go along the line of where those 2 Designer Series paper squares meet. And I want to make sure I don't have glue coming out. Now, do you know what quilt block we're making? Can you see what quilt block we're making? This was this quilt card has been done a couple of times over in the community group Quilt Cards and More. I am just showing you how I did it and what I am not doing, because I didn't want it was a lot of little piecing to get, well, you'll see. Did anybody, yes, somebody said, Holly said a cat. Yes, so we're going to do the cat quilt, okay? But instead of creating all their tails that intertwine in the center, I just got rid of that. That just seemed way more than what I wanted to do. Maybe that's a self-challenge, but I thought for teaching everybody, let's just take the tails out of it, but we can still make a cat quilt. Okay, so I'm going to turn. You can do clockwise or counterclockwise at this point, but I'm going to turn it so that I'm working down in this corner, and I'm going to put some more glue right there. Pick up my triangle, put it right across the top, and there's another sitting kitty. Okay. When I saw the pattern, I just started looking at different shapes, and I didn't want to do a lot of cutting. So I just looked at what shapes there was the most of and went from there. So let's just turn it, and then we're gonna do our outside kitties first, and then we'll do our middle kitties. No right way or wrong way to doing this pattern. This is just what my eye saw, and so that's what I'm showing you. I try to go with as few of cuts as possible. So if I can get a look out of a square and maybe just layer like part of a triangle over it to get what I need, that's where I'm going. Stay there. Okay, so we have our 4 outside kitties, and now we're going to work on the middle ones. So again, just going to come up here, put a little bit of glue down. I want to make sure that I'm not going too far with it, because I don't want it oozing out anywhere. And I can shift that a little bit to make sure that his ears are even. Although some kitties don't have even ears. And let's just keep going. So if this quilt card, if you've got someone who loves cats, I love cats, I miss my cats, I'm sure you're going to want to send this card to somebody. Or, you guys, if you're a quilter and you've made a cat quilt, you can now make a cat card to accompany your quilt if you're giving it away as a gift. Okay, we got one more, and we're going to have 8 little kitties here. Or no, we got 9. No, we got 8. We got 8 kitties. But the whole tail thing in the center, I didn't know if I wanted to tackle that. Not that like I said, I would maybe do it as a self-challenge, but by the time you get to the center, you're going to have tiny, tiny squares, and I didn't want to do that to everybody. Okay, so do you see? Let's come back like this. Do you see all the kitties in the quilt? So there you go. I apologize that I got out of camera. Now you can see by putting those triangles down. So the bow tie created the hind end of our kitty. It rounded off this part of our square here, and the triangle created the head and gave us our ears. You could bluntly cut the tips off of your triangles if you wanted like that little space between the ears. That's up to you. But there, I just trying to keep it simple. Okay. Yes, Kathy, lots of kitties. You know, if you got one or two, what's more, really, what's more, right? At one time, I think I've only had at the most 5. Yeah, I don't think I ever got above 5. When I worked at the vet's office, so many times I heard the vets when they were talking with their clients and talking about number of cats and stuff. You get closer to 10, you start pushing behavioral issues, maybe with litter boxes and things like that. So I never let myself go close to that. But I think I was at 5, maybe 6 at one time. I'm not sure, but anyway, okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to step away. I'm going to come over to my my emboss machine. I am going to put this in the swirl embossing folder, and I'm going to quilt my block, and then I'll show you how it lays down all these ridges, okay? So I'm going to use the swirl embossing folder. To do my quilting. I think I am missing a plate here. Hold on. We'll see here. There we go. Okay, let's open it up and look at our quilting. And there we have our kitties quilted. Again, I went with the swirl, and it helps lay down the ridges and just helps it look like it's all together really nicely. I feel a sticky area right here. So that's a good time to get out the adhesive eraser. So there is our quilt block. And I'm just wondering if I should... There we go. Because I keep finding myself going out of camera. Hi, Diane. How are you feeling today? Louise says she's going to be making a whole lot of these. You know, a lot of cat lovers, right? Okay, so let's bring in our other components here, okay, for our card. That's the insert. Let's go ahead and let's frame our quilt block. Now, I just went 1/8 of an inch bigger. You could do 1/4 if you like that better, but it started taking up a lot of room on the front of the card base, so I kind of just went down another 1/8. So it's a very thin border, Again, if you want to do an 1/8 of an inch or a 1/4 of an inch bigger, it's just going to take up a little bit more room on the front of the card, and it's really not that drastic. Just want to make sure this is all laying down nice and flat. So there we have our kitties. We've got them framed. Let's bring in our card base. And this designer series paper that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. This is going to totally cover the front of our card. Okay, we're not leaving any borders this time. And I'm just going to put a bead of glue all the way down around the perimeter there, a little bit on the center. I'm just going to line up my corners. Make sure you get enough glue on that you've got some slack so that you can shift it a little bit. I thought I did, but might be a little off. So we totally covered the front of our card. Now those 2 pieces of designer series paper that was 1 1/4 by 2, we're just going to come in, and what we want to do is just kind of, this is going to be an accent in the background here. So just kind of space them, kind of like the same, or not the same, whatever look you're going for. And then I'll put this one down here at the bottom. Just trying to keep these two same amount of spacing there. Okay, so that's our background. And while I'm thinking about it, let's just put our insert in here also. Now I have samples to show you. I did this pattern in all 4 color categories. I did them in regals, I did it in brights and subtles. I also changed the color of my card bases, so I'm hoping that I visually give you some options when you do your cards, that you see something that you want to do a little differently. So there's the inside. I've got my little swatches there to just kind of keep going with the fabric and quilting vibe. And now my quilt block, I'm just going to center that. You could pop it up if you want to. I'm going to lay it or glue it down flat because I'm popping up the sentiment that's going to go in the center and cover up that center square. So I'm just going to eyeball this. I'm just looking at the sides and the top and bottom being somewhat even. And I also did this block in 2 different sizes. I went smaller just to show you. If you're someone who likes miniatures or a smaller block, I did those also, and I will give you those cutting instructions for the pieces in the PDF for two smaller sizes. This square is just gonna cover up that middle one. And then I'm going to come in with, these are the transparent adhesive, I don't know if they're gems, what do they call them? Dots. And I'm going to pull that green out. I'm just going to put a little bit more green in here. And I'm going to keep them right in the center there. And that's all I'm doing. You could add some ribbon if you wanted to put a bow somewhere on here. You could do that. But this is a 3 3/4 inch square. Okay, let me show you the other two sizes. What do I do with them? Okay, you ready for some minis? Now you could also, this is a very scrappy quilt block. So I've got colors of all kinds, but if you wanted to do colors of specific colors of cats, you could do that too. So you could do this all in browns and oranges, you know, the multitude of color of cats. You can do that, but I just went scrappy. Okay, so this is 3 3/4 of an inch. This one is 3 1/4 inches, and this one is 2 1/2. So the pieces got a little bit harder to hold on to, the triangles, especially in that one that's 2 1/2 inches. But if you want to give it a try, I'm going to give you the cutting instructions so that you can go smaller. And then that way, the smaller the block also, you've got more room to play with your card base and other things, elements you might want to bring in to the card. We've only got so much room on the front of the card, so I taught you with the biggest pieces so that they were easier to handle, but we can go smaller. Okay? Hi, Tony. Hi, Sandy. Hi, Janice. And Peggy. And Shirley's in here too. Did I see Judy's name? I saw somebody talking to Judy. So if the Wisconsin girls are in here, but they're further on in the feed, good morning too. Okay, I can't keep up with the comments right now. So those are the different sizes. And then I, found a little stamp that has a paw print. So, I mean, you can do these however you want. What I want to show you is what it looks like using the different colors from the different paper packs. So that was the neutrals. And here's a couple more neutrals that I had already done. So we got neutrals. Again, we just made one. We got neutrals. And look at how different the striped background looks compared to, the ones with the circles. So those were the neutrals. These are the regals. And instead of using white, I went with black to have more contrast. I also played around with some heat embossing and did a little heat embossing in the white for the sentiment. Okay, so that's what the regals look like. And let's see, okay, I keep saying pastel, but the subtles. And because there's 10 colors and I only needed 8 colors for my cats, the 2 colors that I didn't use, that's what I used for my background. So this way I get to showcase all 10 colors of the designer series paper. Because I only needed 8. You got 2 little swatches on the inside. You could make those your 2 extra colors. But in order to showcase all the colors from that paper pack, I went with using the 2 colors as my background. And then the brights, again, I used black instead of white. And then on these, I also changed up the color of my card base. I just matched my card base with whatever color was in my background here. Okay, so whether you use a colored card base or you use the basic white, it's up to you. that's just how different all of these can look depending on the color family. And then again, there's our neutrals. So my take on a cat quilt pattern that's very, very popular. I just left their tails off because I just thought it'd be too complicated. So that's today's mystery. I will have a PDF that will upload this weekend. And I've got a lot of cards here. I think I was going to give away 4 cards. So if you want a chance on winning a card, let's just have you use the keyword cat quilt. Keywords cat quilt, put that in the comments, and I'll give away, send away 4 cards to 4 names that get drawn. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed it. It's just my take. It's what I thought was an easy way to get around the pattern without having to cut a lot of pieces. Okay? Susan says she loves all the color possibilities. Yes, and you know, don't think that you have to stick with colors that are actual cats. Use your imagination. Make them colorful. You know, just don't tie yourself down to thinking it's got to be the color of a cat. Okay, hold on. Sneeze. Excuse me. Unless you're giving the card to someone who has cats and you want to make them the colors of that person's cat, then you can get a little bit more specific. Think of a black and white pattern. That would make a great tuxedo cat. You've got your orange cat. So, I mean, there's so many possibilities with this pattern and with color. So I look forward to what your cards look like. Please share them in our community group called Quilt Cards and More. It is a private group, so you do have to answer some join questions to get in. But that's where you're going to find the PDF. And that is where you're going to see all the samples that people are sharing that they did to inspire you in your creativity. Okay. So after lunch, I'm going to be heading over there to see if anybody's got theirs done yet. And we'll just kind of get together over in that group. Remember, this weekend, the PDF will load into the files. And thank you for spending your Thursday morning with me. Can't wait to see what you have done, okay? Have a blessed day, everybody.